So translation, the personality of Godhead assumed the incarnation of Nṛsiṁhadeva in order to vanquish the great fears of the demigods. He killed the king of the demons, Hiraṇyakaśipu, who challenged the Lord with a club in his hand. By placing the demon on his thighs and piercing him with his nails, rolling his eyebrows in anger, and showing his fearful teeth and mouth. Please repeat. The personality of Godhead.
The personality of Godhead
Assumed the incarnation of Nṛsiṁhadeva.
Assumed the incarnation of Nṛsiṁhadeva
In order to vanquish the great fears of the demigods.
In order to vanquish the great fears of the demigods.
He killed the king of the demons, Hiraṇyakaśipu.
He killed the king of the demons, Hiraṇyakaśipu,
who challenged the Lord with a club in his hand.
Who challenged the Lord with a club in his hand.
By placing the demon on his thighs.
By placing the demon on his thighs.
And piercing him with his nails.
And piercing him with his nails.
Rolling his eyebrows in anger.
Rolling his eyebrows in anger.
And showing his fearful teeth and mouth.
And showing his fearful teeth and mouth.
So, purport by Srila Prabhupada.
1 second, I'm going to just mute everybody, Prabhu. Just 1 second. Okay, we are ready, Prabhu. Thank you.
The history of Hiraṇyakaśipu and his great son, Prahlad Maharaj, is narrated in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hiraṇyakaśipu became very powerful by material achievements and thought himself to be immortal by the grace of Brahmaji. Brahmaji declined to award him the benediction of immortality because he himself is not an immortal being. But Hiraṇyakaśipu derived Brahmaji's benediction in a roundabout way, almost equal to becoming an immortal being. Hiraṇyakaśipu was sure that he would not be killed by any man or demigod, or by any kind of known weapon, nor would he die in day or night. The Lord, however, assumed the incarnation of half man and half lion, which was beyond the imagination of the materialistic demon like Hiraṇyakaśipu, and thus, keeping pace with the benediction of Brahmaji, the Lord killed him. The purport continues. Let's see what's going on here. Let's try it this way. There it goes. He killed him on his lap, so that he was killed neither on the land, nor on the water, nor in the sky. Oops. It's getting ahead of us now. Let's go back. Sorry for the repeat here. It's kind of slow moving. Okay, there we go. So the demon was pierced by Nṛsiṁha's nails, which were beyond the human weapons imaginable by Hiraṇyakaśipu. The literal meaning of Hiraṇyakaśipu is one who is after gold and soft bedding. The ultimate aim of all materialistic men. Such demoniac men who have no relationship with God gradually become puffed up by material acquisitions and began to challenge the authority of the Supreme Lord and torture those who are devotees of the Lord. Prahlad Maharaj happened to be the son of Hiraṇyakaśipu, and because the boy was a great devotee, his father tortured him to the best of his ability. In this extreme situation, the Lord assumed the incarnation of Nṛsiṁhadeva, and just to finish the enemy of the demigods, the Lord killed Hiraṇyakaśipu in a manner beyond the demon's imagination. Materialistic plans of godless demons are always frustrated by the all-powerful Lord. So here we have this whole narration is being narrated by Narada Muni to King Yudhisthira during the Rajasuya ceremony where Sishupal was blaspheming Krishna. And when he was killed, they noticed that his soul left his body and entered into the body of Krishna. And he was wondering, how could this be? He's a demon. So this whole narration is being taken place because of this question. And then Narada Muni goes to explain how these demons originally were in the spiritual world, and they were doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay, and they were cursed by the 4 Kumaras for not letting them enter. They had misjudged them somehow or other, Krishna's arrangement, because Krishna wanted to have a good fight. And who else can fight with Krishna but his devotee? And this is here. This is probably Jai Vijay, one of those. He's here as Hiraṇyakāśipu's brother Hiraṇyaksa. And this is where Hiraṇyakāśipu's enmity really began even more when Lord Vishnu came in the form of this gigantic boar, Lord Vraha, and killed his brother. Because his brother had upset the earth. He was greedily mining gold, and the earth fell out of his orbit and fell into the Garbhodak ocean. And so Krishna came in the form of a huge boar and killed him. And this is Hiraṇyakāśipu's thinking that, oh, this Vishnu is just like anyone else because he has partiality. He is partial towards demigods. So this is what Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is saying. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has given up his natural tendency of equality toward the demigods and the demons. Although he's the Supreme Person, now, influenced by Maya, he has assumed the form of a boar to please his devotees and demigods, just as a restless child leans towards someone. So he's thinking Krishna is partial, so therefore he's under Maya. So then, I can try to conquer him then. I'll kill him, and for revenge, I'll offer his blood to my brother. But actually, we know that Krishna is not partial to anyone. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says that Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, that Krishna is equal to everyone. And also in the Bhagavad Gita, we know from the 4th chapter, Krishna says, Ye yatamam prapajante, tam stataiva bhajami aham, that as they all surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. So here's the Lord. He appears as death for the atheist, and is actually a loving savior for his devotees. And he is beyond any material affinity. So this is what he does, Hiraṇyakāśipu, just to take a revenge for his brother's death. He thinks that I will challenge God, I will become powerful. So he vowed to satisfy his brother's soul with Vishnu's blood. And in his quest for immortality, he wanted to become as, humanly powerful as he can. So he did these humanly impossible penances so that he can acquire this boon from Lord Brahma, who's the creator of the universe. So he actually thought he could become God by austerities and penance. So that's how he's foolishly concluding that since Lord Vishnu was favoring the demigods, so he must also be an ordinary conditioned living entity, influenced by partiality and hatred. So, he became God by austerity, so I could do that too. So this is a mentality, it's also characteristic of the Mayavadis. They maintain that every soul is God, and they're deluded by Maya, and that once that illusion is dispelled, then the soul, once again, he can realize his identity with God. This is their theory, but it's unacceptable. So this is what they do. They consider that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna's supremacy, is possible to attain, and his not so great. But in the Bhagavad Gita, there's the verse in the 9th chapter says, Madhyaksena prakriti suyate sa characharam, that this material nature is one of my energies and it's working under my direction. It's producing all moving and non-moving beings. And under this rule, its manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So this material energy, Maya, it's actually one of Krishna's potencies. And Maya is submissive to Krishna. There's no possibility that Krishna could be under the influence of Maya. Can't be deluded. That's their theory, the Mayavadis, that after liberation the soul merges into God. But that's refuted in the Bhagavad Gita also, in the 15th chapter. So where Krishna says that all his jiva souls, they're all parts and parcels eternally. They remain always directly distinct individuals. But that's their Mayavadi. They think that that's the highest conception of God. It's impersonal, He's all-pervading, nirguna, without any quality, attribute, or form. So Krishna, for the Mayavadis, they think that he is Saguna Brahman, that's without form, without attributes. So this is their illusion. So they're entangled, and they will never be able to understand Krishna. So because they're frustrated with this suffering caused by their material body, they actually conceive of transcendence and liberation free from all these miseries, these qualities and things. So that's why they do that. But this is clearly defined also in the Bhagavad Gita, that avyaktam vyaktam apanam manyate mam abhudaya, that the unintelligent men, they do not know me perfectly, think that I, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, was impersonal before and now have assumed this personality. But due to their small knowledge, they don't know my higher nature, which is imperishable and supreme. So we learn from the Bhagavad Gita that we can never achieve godhood. And this is what Hiraṇyakaśipu is trying to do. He thinks that I can become God. But what is he interested? That's all he's interested in, is Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, this Hiraṇya and this Kashipu, gold and soft bed. So he's very cunning, this Hiraṇyakaśipu. So he's interested in these three things. And he thinks that, this money and women, I'll enjoy these by becoming immortal. But we'll see what happens. So Lord Brahma could not offer that to him. So then he started to request that I won't be killed by any man, animal, God, or anybody within the 8,400,000 species of life. And then as it mentioned, that won't die on land, the air, water, by weapon. So Hiraṇyakaśipu is foolishly thinking that actually this will guarantee me to be saved from death. So ultimately, Lord Brahma granted him all these benedictions, but still, he wasn't smarter than Krishna. Krishna still killed him. And we'll see how, he wasn't killed by any weapon, but he was killed by Krishna's nails, which are like diamonds. He wasn't killed on the land, in the air, in the water, for he was killed on the lap of Nṛsiṁhadeva. So the whole point is that even Hiraṇyakaśipu is the most powerful of materialists. He could not become deathless by his various plans, by his speculation, thinking that, I can become God. So what then can be accomplished by these tiny Hiraṇyakashipus of today? And their plans are just thwarted moment after moment. So here he is, Hiraṇyakashipu. He is actually, what do you need? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Take that. Look at that. No one can achieve that. Lord Brahma came to find him when heat was emanating from his head. So, there. And, he was causing havoc in the whole universe, so Lord Brahma came. Couldn't see him. Look, he was covered by an entire anthill, which completely ate his flesh all the way to the bones, and he was still maintaining his life air within that. Who can do such austerities? It's amazing what he did. Very powerful personality. So when he was performing austerities, the demigods thought, well, his wife is impregnated, and there's going to be another demon. So let's wait for her to give birth to this child, and then we'll kill his son. It's bad enough to have one demon like that. But we see in Narada Muni, he actually stopped them. And he said that, no, this is a great devotee of the Lord. He actually took birth, having acquired knowledge and devotional service in the womb. So this is when, in the absence of Hiraṇyakaśipu, they thought that, they were going to do something good. But Narada Muni rescued him and his mother. He convinced them that this boy is going to be an exalted devotee of Krishna. And he actually took her to his ashram, and he was preaching to her, and Prahlad Maharaj, he actually overheard Narada's transcendental discussions on the glories of the Lord, and then he became fearless, and he fully surrendered unto the infallible shelter of the Lord. So, how did Prahlad Maharaj, why did he take birth as such a great devotee like that? So there's a nice description of that, and this was after Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva had slain Hiraṇyakaśipu, and Prahlad Maharaj offered prayers with heartfelt devotion and inquired from him. He said, how is it that I was able to achieve this rarest position of a pure devotional service to you? And then Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva replied to him. He said, Prahlad, in your past life, you were an unworthy son of a Brahmana. You disregarded the Vedic scriptures, and you were addicted to sinful activities. But simply because you observed complete fast from food or water on my auspicious appearance day, this Sri Nṛsiṁha Chaturdasi, you attained pure devotional service unto me. So he says, to anyone who observes this fast, I'll grant eternal bliss, enjoyment, and liberation. So this is Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. He appears in different universes, different times, and enacts his divine pastimes. And this is his appearance is called Nṛsiṁha Chaturdasi. It's the 14th lunar day of the waxing moon of the Madhusudana month. And it's a divine day. So if the devotees, we abstain from food or water till dusk, we honor his transcendental appearance day. And then one may wonder, why did he become the son of Hiraṇyakaśipu? So that story, once before, actually, Hiraṇyakaśipu went up to Mount Kailash and he was performing austerity so that he could, become powerful. But Lord Brahma at that time, he was thinking how to stop this Daitya. He knew well that Hiraṇyakaśipu would terrorize the universe. So, with these powers that he gains from his austerities. So Narada Muni, he assured his father, he said, don't worry, that he will distract Hiraṇyakaśipu from his aesthetic trance. So what happened is Narada Muni with his friend Parvata Muni, they assumed form of birds. And then they flew to the place where Hiraṇyakaśipu was, wrapped in his meditation. And they recited the mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya, 3 times. Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. And then hearing this name Narayan, Vishnu, his enemy, Hiraṇyakaśipu shot an arrow to kill the birds, but they flew away. He missed them. So distracted from his penance, Hiraṇyakaśipu, he just retired to his palace. And there he enjoyed the night with his queen, Kayadu. And then Kayadu was asking her husband, why did you abandon your resolution to perform austerities for 10,000 years? And he informed her of the birds who had disturbed him with the loud chanting of the names of Narayan. So just as he was explaining this to his wife, he was intimately enjoying with the company of her. And at that time, his semen was discharged into her just as he told her the mantra, Om Namo Narayanaya. And thus, the holy names of the Lord were recited at the time of Prahlad Maharaj's conception. So that's the reason for that. So we can see he was completely fearless. He was only 5 years old and he had firm faith in the Lord's protection. And what did he do? He invoked that the hearts of his schoolmates. In that atheistic school of the demon Sukracharya, he was the guru of the Daityas. And what was he doing? Chanting, dancing. So how did actually Prahlad Maharaj know that he would be protected by Nṛsiṁhadeva? So again, we're talking about how Hiraṇyakaśipu was trying to kill Prahlad. And one of his last efforts, he tied Prahlad Maharaj with his snake cords, Nagapasa. At the dead of night, he threw him into the sea and he hurled gigantic boulders to crush him in the sea bottom. And then Prahlad Maharaj was actually tossed in the ocean, and the waves carried him to the shore. And that's where Garuda, Lord Vishnu's personal carrier, this mighty eagle, he descended and freed Prahlad Maharaj from these life-sucking snakes. And then Varuna, the Lord of the Sea, he awoke Prahlad with offerings of respect. And then Prahlad Maharaj regained consciousness, and he prayed to Lord Varuna. Prahlad Maharaj was praying. He said, "O Lord of the ocean, you are fortunate to always behold Lord Vishnu, who lies on a serpent bed upon your waters. Please instruct me how I may behold him before my very eyes." So he wanted to see Krishna. And then Varuna replied to Prahlad Maharaj. He said, "O best of the yogis, simply pray to him in deepest meditation, and the Lord, who is the benefactor of his devotees, he will certainly appear before you." And then Varuna disappeared into the water. But Prahlad Maharaj, he was considering himself ineligible to access the Supreme Lord Vishnu, so he just sobbed and his heart sank in sorrow and he fell unconscious. And then Lord Vishnu appeared there and he lifted up Prahlad on his lap. And then when Prahlad awoke, in the loving hands of the Lord, he was filled with fear and he was surprised and pleasure at the same time. He was beholding the Lord, and then he fainted in ecstasy. And then the Lord embraced Prahlad. And then when Prahlad regained consciousness, he prostrated himself before the Lord, and he was unable to say anything. He couldn't even say any prayers. And the Lord lifted him up, and he said, "O son, give up your fear of my majesty, for no one is more beloved to me than you. Please ask from me whatever is dearest to you." So Prahlad said, "My Lord, I wish only to sip the nectar of your divine form, which is rarely seen even by the greatest demigods." And then the Lord actually requested Prahlad to ask a boon. And he wanted to just ask for exclusive, undeviating devotional service to him. So after blessing Prahlad, he was, to acquire anything he desired and enjoy all the pleasures. Lord said, "Don't grieve upon my disappearance, for I will never be separated from your heart. Very soon you'll behold me again to kill the Hiraṇyakaśipu, when he kills Hiraṇyakaśipu in the form of Nṛsiṁha." So this is Nṛsiṁha. He's loving to the saints and he's deadly to the atheists. So this is how Prahlad Maharaj, he knew that Krishna would protect him. He had this firm faith. He wasn't afraid. So, and this is what happened. Enraged at hearing about his son preaching to the classmates, he actually, Hiraṇyakaśipu, sentenced Prahlad to death. And his henchmen, they tried everything to kill Prahlad. He was starved. They tried to poison him. They cursed spells on him. They tried to beat him. The fiends tried to beat him. He was attacked with stones, fires, blizzards, just on and on. He was thrown in a pit of snakes, these virulent pythons. Tried to stomp him with huge elephants. And look, they even tried to throw him off of mountain peaks. In so many ways, they're trying to kill Prahlad Maharaj. They try to boil him. You see, but yet he was just completely fixed, unafraid, completely absorbed in the holy names of Krishna. And Hiraṇyakaśipu, and his attempts, became even more angry. He's seen how Prahlad Maharaj was untouched by all his, evil ways of trying to kill him. So just as these Mayavadis, they maintain the false theory that if you do enough penance, a soul can actually become God. So Hiraṇyakaśipu considered that he could achieve immortality, and dominance over all the land and vanquish Vishnu with his own prowess. But look, his little 5-year-old boy challenged that power. And this arrogant Hiraṇyakaśipu cursed him, his own son. He cursed him, inquired him, "Where do you obtain the power to defy my supremacy?" And he says, "The source of my strength is Lord Vishnu." He replied fearlessly, "He's the source of everyone's strength, even including yours." So when he heard that, his strength was by the grace of Vishnu, his worst enemy. It was a great insult for Hiraṇyakaśipu, being challenged by Prahlad Maharaj. He says, "Oh, most unfortunate Prahlad, you have always described an all-pervading supreme controller beyond me. If he is everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar? If he doesn't appear from this pillar, then today your head will be severed with my sword." So he started to, criticize him in so many ways. "You impudent, you most unintelligent disruptor of the family. You're the lowest of mankind. You violated my power to rule you, and therefore you're an obstinate fool. So today I'm going to send you to the place of Yamaraj." So this is very interesting, how he condemned his Vaishnava son for being durvinita, that's ungentle, uncivilized, impudent. So it's interesting how Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur, he derived other meanings from these words, by the mercy of the goddess of learning, Sarasvati. He says this word du, it refers to the material world, and this is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, that this material world is dukhalayam, full of material conditions. And this word vi means visesha, specifically, which means specifically. And nita means brought in. So this is referring how Prahlad Maharaj was especially brought into this material world to teach people how to get out of the material condition. So this is how he comes. Krishna says, yada yada hi dhammasha, he comes, him again, and sometimes he sends his devotees with the same mission, to free the poor conditioned souls from the clutches of Maya. That's chastising them, actually. And then he also, this word in that verse, manda, means very bad or slow in spiritualization. As in the Bhagavatam says, manda sumanda mitayo, that Prahlad Maharaj, he is the guide of all the mandas, or the bad living entities, or under the influence of Maya. So he's the benefactor of this slow and bad living entities in this material world. So he goes on and on like that to, just change the wording to actually glorify Prahlad. And he called him an obstinate fool. So Prahlad, he didn't care for the instructions of an asura, even if he was his father. When they give instructions like his teachers, he just remained silent. He didn't care about the instructions. So he doesn't give any respect to demons, even though he may be his father. And he was disobedient to the orders of his father, because he's a demon. So this is how, very nicely, Srila Vishnava Chakravarti Thakur, he explained these words in a very interesting way. Even though he was being cursed, he was actually being glorified by his father. So with these words, he was so angry. He said, if he's in this pillar, then I will crush this pillar. So he smashed the pillar, and this huge sound, which emanated and covered the entire universe, came from that pillar. And so to prove the statement of his devotee Prahlad, he appeared from everywhere. He's everywhere, he said. So, and then he appeared in this form that was never seen before. It was neither a man, nor was it a lion. So it was Nṛsiṁhadeva. So here he appears, this huge Hiraṇyakaśipu. Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva appeared before Hiraṇyakaśipu, and Hiraṇyakaśipu looked like a moth entering into his fire. He tried to attack Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. He actually ridiculously thought that he would be able to defeat the Lord, just as he conquered his other enemies. Long before, when his brother was slain, the same Hiraṇyakaśipu, he actually rushed at the Lord with a trident, but the Lord then disappeared and entered into his nostril at that time. So he thought maybe that God was dead. So here, this is what happens. So Hiraṇyakaśipu was being played with, like a cat plays with a mouse by Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. And then when the sun began to set, Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva lifted Hiraṇyakaśipu on his lap. And then he dug his nails into Hiraṇyakashipu's torso. And at that time, this great demon cried out, "Alas, my chest, which is being ripped open by Nṛsiṁhadeva at this moment, is the same chest that broke the Tuska's Aravata, the Indra's elephant. It's the same chest that stayed free of scars despite being struck by Lord Shiva's axe." That was in the Nṛsiṁha Purana. So then Nṛsiṁhadeva ripped open the stone-like chest of Hiraṇyakashipu with his diamond-like nails, and wore the intestines of this king as a victory garland, just to convince the demigod that he's actually dead. So then the Lord tore out his heart, and then it was amazing. As he ripped him apart, Hiraṇyakashipu's body actually disappeared. And then when the Lord shook his hands, then all the torn pieces of Hiraṇyakashipu fell out of his nails onto the ground. So that's how insignificant he was. And that's also from the Nṛsiṁha Purana. So we can understand how insignificant he was. So we pray, Tavakara Kamalanakam Abhuta Shringam Dalita Hiraṇyakashipu Tanyo Bringam Te Shavadrita Nadari Rupa Jai Jagadishare. So glorifying Krishna, half man, half lion, and how he easily crushed this wasp between the fingernails of the Lord. So this is how he killed him, without violating any of the boons, as Prabhupada mentioned in the purport. He didn't kill him inside or out of any residence. The Lord actually killed him in a doorway. It wasn't night or day. He killed him at twilight. It wasn't in the ground or the sky. It was on the Lord's lap. It wasn't by a human being or an animal. Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is a half man, half lion. And it wasn't by any demigod, demon, or great snake. The Lord is obviously beyond these categories. It wasn't by any weapon, living or non-living. So Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva pierced him with his nails, which are considered to be weapons and are neither living nor dead. So, and then he also had this boon that he won't be killed by any living being created by Brahma, nor, And then he wanted to be sure that he wouldn't be killed by Brahma or Shiva or Lord Vishnu, the presiding deities of the universe. So Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is not one of these. He's actually a Leela avatar. It's a pastime incarnation of Krishna. He's not in the category of Lord Shiva or Vishnu, who's the guna avatars, who are in charge of the three modes of material nature. So this way, by his mental speculation, the demon thought he could become God. But see, he's not. You can see how more intelligent Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is. So here, this is just a short clip from a play that was given here in the Gurukul in LA years ago. Actually, my two sons are playing in it. And it's only 8 minutes, and we could go through that, and then we'll be pretty close to the end here. So I'd like to share this with you, just kind of give the importance of how it's so nice to be able to be absorbed in the pastimes of Krishna and to hear them, and then that way we become more and more advanced. Okay, so I'll start it here now.
All the sons of the demons appreciated the transcendental instructions given by Prahlad. They rejected the materialistic instructions given by Santanamarta. Maharaj, Prahlad has contaminated our student. He was singing kirtan in our school. Oh, most impudent, most unintelligent disruptor of our family. Oh, lowest of mankind. You have violated my power to rule you. death of this demon. Born in a family full of health and material qualities. And what is my position? And what is to be said of your causeless mercy, which was not offered to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or the goddess of fortune? You didn't put a lotus hand on their heads, but you have put it upon mine.
My dear devotee Prahlad, I'm so very pleased with you. You never left your service to Narada Muni, your spiritual master. It is my pastime to fulfill the desire of all living beings, and therefore you may ask from me any benediction you desire to be fulfilled.
O my Lord, if you want to bestow a desirable benediction upon me, then I pray for your lordship. And within the core of my heart, there will be no more material desires.
So here we have, Hiraṇyakaśipu. We know he was a universal tyrant. He wished to reverse the system of piety. He wanted the impious to be rewarded and the pious to be punished. So upon his death, all the demigods and the inhabitants of various planets, they tried to offer prayers to the Lord, and they show that in the play too, expressing their gratitude, but he couldn't pacify the Lord. So, he had usurped their riches, their wives, their shares of the sacrificial offerings. But only, as we see here, Prahlad Maharaj, he was able to pacify the Lord with loving prayers. And this is also showed in the play, which is very nice. So he did this. He appeared as half man, half lion, just for the sake of his pure devotee. And as we see here, Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva is overjoyed with the firm faith of Prahlad Maharaj. And he kept repeatedly requested him to ask for boons, And Prahlad Maharaj was so compassionate, he was more concerned for the welfare of others, not himself. And he only requested the Lord to liberate his demoniac father. And that's when the Lord guaranteed liberation to 21 generations of Prahlad's dynasty. So just as the Lord is very kind to his devotees, even though he's fearsome to the demons, there's a nice website you can go to and see actually today the pastimes of Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, which are happening. Sometimes it's called Dr. Nṛsiṁha, because he takes great pleasure in serving his devotees and healing them and protecting them in so many different ways. So you can go to it. It's called Nṛsiṁhadeva.com. And this is Mayapur devotees put this together. And there's this one pastime I'll tell you about, that when Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, he first came to Mayapur, all the pujaris were actually afraid of him. They were reluctant to worship him. He's such an awesome form. There's one such devotee, his name is Baba Siddhidas. He was particularly frightened, and he was always really nervous about worshiping him. So one night, after putting the Lord to rest, he was leaving the altar and he heard this transcendental sound. It's a tremendous sound that made his hair stand on end. And he looked back fearfully, And he saw that actually everything was in place. So he quickly left, locked the door, and he paid his obeisances. And then he was praying for forgiveness for any offense he might have inadvertently committed. So at the end of that night, he was awakened by the shaking of his bed. So Baba Siddhi, he was sleeping on the top bunk bed. And so he thought, oh, it must be the Pujari below is getting up for Mongol Artik. So when he opened his eyes, he saw Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva sitting on his bed. He's so fortunate. He became fearful and practically to the point of panic. And he tried to get up. And Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, you can just imagine, he placed his two hands, which were like the weight of the universe, on his shoulders, just leaning over him. And Nṛsiṁhadeva is telling him, be calm, be peaceful. And the Lord consoled him. He said, I have just come to tell you that when you worship me in the temple, there is no need to fear me. Please give up this fear. And then the Lord disappeared. So this Baba Siddhi, this devotee, he began to run up and down the veranda in the long building where he slept. And everybody was asking, what happened? The devotees were concerned. And they just received incoherent reply. They thought maybe that he had gone mad or was haunted by a ghost or something. So then finally he ran over to the temple and he prostrated himself before the door where Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva was worshiping. And then he offered some very heartfelt prayers. And then after some time he became a little pacified. And he began to walk back to his room. And then he was thinking to himself, why is everybody staring at me? So and then he was thinking to himself, and then he thought, and he looked down and he said, and then it was obvious that he had went to the temple in his night dress. So this is and then someone was saying that he saw him. He actually moved to America. He asked him about the incident. He said, yeah. He said, I still have the two marks on my shoulders. They're gradually going away, but they're still visible. So this is the pastime. So there's many times when devotees would come and get healed from severe diseases. Their children were lost. Come praying before Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, and the next minute the child would become walking in front of her. It's amazing. So many far-out miracles that are happening today. And, even the devotee here had an experience with Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva too in Los Angeles. But I'll just move on here since we're getting close to time. And so here, Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva, he wanted to bless his son, Prahlāda Maharaj. And then he said that, I'm engaged in devotional service. How can I pray for personal sense gratification? A person can be called a pure devotee or even a devotee if he wants to be like a business. So this is Prahlāda Maharaj is so humble. But the Lord, he didn't ask for anything from the Lord. And the Lord gave him a benediction anyway. And, he offered him so many things. And here he became the king, actually, of the entire, he took over his father's position, and he didn't even perform the austerities that Prahlāda Maharaj had performed. So, can you hear me okay? Is that all right?
Yes.
I was hearing some noise in the background. Okay, so yeah. So this is when Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva disappeared. So on that day, they actually installed Prahlāda Maharaj on the throne. And it was performed by Lord Brahma and Sukracharya. They installed Prahlāda Maharaj on the throne. So actually, the Krishna was so pleased with him that he actually gave unalloyed devotion to him. And he gave him a material benediction that he would be perfectly happy in this world and live his next life in Vaikuntha. And he gave him the benediction that he would be the king of this material world until the end of the Manvantara millennium. Although it's in the material world, he would have facility to hear the glories of the Lord and depend fully on the Lord, performing devotional service, bhakti yoga. And then he was advised to actually perform the Shraddha ceremony for his father and all that. So we should also pray to Nṛsiṁhadeva, the Supreme Controller, that just as you have protected Prahlāda Maharaj, so you should also protect us from deviating off the path of devotional service. And offer all glories to Lord Nṛsiṁhadeva. So this is the story that was narrated Narada Muni described the character of Prahlad Maharaj for Yudhishthira Maharaj, and he described the killing of Ravana, Lord Ramchandra, so many pastimes of Krishna, and that's when they saw Sishabal had merged into the existence of the Lord, thinking that, and proving that the Lord is not partial. So there's a nice verse we'll end with here. And this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. And those who, even while remaining situated in their established social positions, throw away the process of speculative knowledge, and with their body, words, and mind, offer all respects to descriptions of your personality and activities, dedicating their lives to these narrations, which are vibrated by you personally and by your pure devotees, certainly conquer your lordship, although you're otherwise unconquerable by anyone within the three worlds.
Yeah.
So this is the position of the devotees. Even though Krishna is unconquerable, we can actually conquer him. And this is the whole arrangement of this whole process. There's a nice pastime of Prabhupada. We just heard from Giriraj Swami here during the initiation ceremony yesterday. He was talking about in Calcutta, they had this huge Pandal program going on. No, it was in Bombay. And it was so successful, there was 20,000 people, that Prabhupada wanted it to be in Calcutta. But during that time, Calcutta, there was a lot of challenges from these Naxalites. They were like heckling and so many things. And even the press was challenging Prabhupada. They said, what is the use of all this great arrangement, spending all this money for this big program, thinking that, they should probably give the money to the poor or whatever. And Prabhupada said that this whole program, this whole arrangement is just to facilitate hearing. So that's how important hearing is. And this is what Srila Prabhupada, he's actually given us. That's the reference to this verse, 10th canto, 14th chapter, 3rd verse. So Srila Prabhupada, he gave us these books just to facilitate hearing. He wanted us to read these books. Please distribute these books and he'll be pleased. But he wanted the devotees to read the books so they will stay. This is how we stay in Krishna consciousness, by constantly reading these books. So one of the devotees that took initiation, he vowed that he would read at least 1 hour a day of these books. And Giriraj Swami was very pleased. He said, that's very good. Everyone should do that. So we'll end here with Srila Prabhupada, just a very short clip about how to conquer Krishna. So here it is. Hope you can hear this.
Although God is never conquered by anyone else, still this man who has adopted this process, he will conquer God someday. And who can conquer God? Only the devotees. Just like in Vrindavan, the gopis, the cowherd boy, Mother Yashoda, Father Nanda, and all of them, even the cows and calves, they conquered God, Krishna. So, this is the science of God, and we have got all these books translated into English, and other things have been translated in other languages. So we shall request you to understand, to hear about God. Then someday will come. You will understand what is God, what is your relationship with Him, and you will act accordingly. Then your life will be successful.
But Prabhupada mentioned here, I don't know if you heard, but even the cows and the calves, they conquered Lord Krishna. But a speculator like Hiraṇyakaśipu, even though he's so powerful, he thought he could conquer God. He couldn't do it. But just simple cowherd boys and cowherd women, they were able to conquer God. So this is why Prabhupada says we have got all these books translated to English, and other things are coming, and that we will request you to understand these, to hear about God. And then someday you will come, you will understand what is God, what is your relationship with Him, and then you'll act accordingly, and your life will be successful. That's what Prabhupada said. So thank you very much. Appreciate all your kindness and listening. So if there's any comments or questions,
Thank you, Prabhu.
Maybe we can ask them now.
Thank you.
Go to G. Thank you for your class, Prabhuji. Very nice.
Thank you, Prabhu.
I want to ask you a question, but I want to preface my question with an apology. Usually, if I try to ask a thoughtful question that my speaker will relish, be able to sort of bat it out of the park. But it's a hard one, and I'm glad I'm asking you rather than you asking me. But it crossed my mind during the class, so I know there's answers out there, and I'd like to hear what you've got to say. I love the description, and it's so reassuring when we're hearing about how Krishna protects his devotee. You know, we know in Bhagavad Gita, yes, Krishna tells us, Kuntaya pratijanihi name bhaktya pranashyati. Says, Arjuna, you tell him. Because sometimes Krishna doesn't always keep his word, but Arjuna is of greater character in that respect. Kuntaya pratijanihi. Arjuna, you tell him that my devotee is always protected. And we saw that, and you described it so nicely in so many graphics of how Prahlad was protected, his devotee protected. But we've seen so many incidents that would seem to be to the contrary, where devotees were not protected. Many devotees we've seen have died in terrible car accidents. For example, here in Hawaii, there's a very nice devotee, Akshobhya. I think he came from L.A. Maybe you knew Akshobhya.
No, but I heard about it.
Yeah, so he had come to Hawaii. This was just before. This was in 79, just before Raghav and I came. Like months before, he went to some apartment to protect a devotee. There was some agitation with a family and so on, and so a woman and her husband, and Akshobhya went there to try to mediate, and the girl's brother stabbed him in the heart, and he died. And there's many examples that we could cite. Perhaps you could cite others throughout our society where we've seen it. It didn't seem like devotees were protected.
Oh yeah.
So how do we understand all this? How do we accommodate it? Because it seems like you're saying something very different when we hear about Prahlad, how he was completely protected under all circumstances. In so many ways they tried to kill him, but Krishna protected constantly. I haven't seen many examples like that other than reading about Prahlad. So how do we understand that? And again, I apologize for the question. I know it's not an easy one.
Well, it's a very nice question, and it should be understood, and I'm glad you brought it up. But yeah, protection, according to the way we look at it, may be different than how Krishna sees it. So sometimes it's hard to understand Krishna's plan. Even Srila Prabhupada left us. Many great acharyas have left us because we know that this material world is temporary. And Krishna's plan to protect us doesn't mean he's going to protect your body, but he's going to protect your consciousness. He's going to protect the living entity from being further suffering in future births like that. So he's protecting the devotee's devotional service. He's protecting his consciousness. So whatever we do in devotional service, just by hearing this pastime, we're being protected by Krishna. So we don't understand the great intricacies of karma, the activities, so many things, and all the other pious activities and devotional service that we've performed. But Krishna knows. Krishna's keeping tabs. So Krishna knows better what is best. And sometimes, Krishna will call a devotee for some apparent, reason that doesn't just tally with us, and we're very shaken by it. We had a nice devotee here that used to run prasadam program. Used to at the what they call this big festival that they have, the Burning Man program and things like that. And he just one day he was driving along the road and he just went through a intersection and got smashed by a big truck. And Krishna took him somewhere else. But we can see, we're always reminded that this is not our home, actually, where we are. We do the best we can engage in devotional service, and Krishna will make an arrangement, hopefully, by our sincerity, that at the time of death we'll be thinking of Krishna. Just like Hiraṇyakaśipu was tricked into thinking of thinking of Krishna's name when he was conceiving Prahlad Maharaj, so that Prahlad Maharaj could take birth. So in the same way, when we're leaving this world, also Krishna will make some kind of arrangement, hopefully, that we will be thinking of him, and that'll be the perfection. Because ultimately, all of us, we're going to have to leave here, But Krishna never promised that he'll protect your body, but he promises that he'll protect your consciousness. So that's the way I see it. Maybe other devotees have more realization and insight on that.
That was a great answer, Gaudacandra. Thank you. Good job on that one.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. It's very important.
Yeah, we saw that at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, after so many wonderful devotees had died in the battle, that Yudhishthira was so distraught that even Krishna chose not to answer his question of why so many people had to die in this way, that they went, and Krishna empowered Grandfather Bhishma to answer the question. And his answer was the same as you said. I think the Sanskrit, Nihasya karhi chidrajan puman veda pititam yad vijigyasya yukta muyanti kavayopihi, that no one can understand the plan of the Lord. Muyanti kavayopihi, even the greatest kavis, the greatest thinkers, they're all bewildered. We can't understand. And I like that you're emphasizing that Krishna isn't never promised to protect our physical bodies, but to protect our soul, protect our devotional service. And that's very helpful. That's good.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Any other comments or questions? So the presentation came through okay, except for the video, and the speaking of Prabhupada?
Except the audio with the video. The video we could see fine. The audio portion we couldn't hear.
Oh, that was pretty cool at the end. It would have been nice to show you the graphic, even without the sound. I don't know if you guys want to see it, but yeah, it's kind of cool how Nṛsiṁhadeva appears, and it's really far off. So.
Is it possible for you, Prabhu, maybe to send the link to that we can watch later, something like that?
Yes, okay. I agree with that. I'd love to see it with the sound.
Okay, yeah, that with cool sounds. Yeah, that was one of when the kids were doing, drama, the Gurukul. Then we got into we made a little video from the film, and they got into editing and stuff, and that's kind of what started my son. What he does now, he's like a professional editor and filmmaker, so he's doing that.
So is it possible? I'm sorry. So is it possible that we could go on to eSangha website and then view it from there somewhere?
It's possible. I can the whole file. I guess I can upload it, and then you guys can watch it, download it, and you can see the whole presentation.
Prabhu, send it to Ramananda.
Okay.
Upload on
it's a big file, and I could probably forward.
Yeah, I can slice it in. That's what I can do. You send it to me, and I'll slice it in.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, it's in Keynote, but I guess you can open it up in anything. In what's that other program, PC site is PowerPoint. I guess it can be converted, or it would have to be either PowerPoint or Keynote, because if you convert it to a PDF, then you won't get any sound or anything. So we could try to do that for you. Very nice play. So my older son was Hiraṇyakaśipu, and my younger son was Prahlad in the movie there. So anyway, I just thought it would be something nice for this particular pastime. It's kind of nice to see how Prabhupada's given the opportunity for us to hear and chant. These books are there. We hear them, we enact the plays, we glorify Krishna. Like that one verse we said that, if we just give up this mental speculation and just simply glorify Krishna, then we can actually conquer the Lord. Jai. So if there's any other further questions or comments, I guess that we could call it the end.
Excellent class. Thank you so much.
Great, Gaudacandra. Wonderful.
Thank you so much. Always.
Always great.
Hare Krishna.
Bye. Thank you.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Well, actually, in Alachua, they are talking about. Haribol, are you there?
Yeah, one more.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Alachua, I think, yeah. Oh, no, in Mayapur, they're talking about Nṛsiṁhadeva Rishi on the Bhagavatam class.
Uh-huh.
You know, and I think they are going through all the 24 incarnations just like we are here. So it would be good if you ever have some, I know it's off the topic, if you have some information more about Nṛsiṁhadeva Rishi, all incarnations.
Oh, okay.
Krishna. All right,
okay.
Thank you, Haribol. Very nice.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Jai Guru Srimad Bhagavatam, Guru Srila Prabhupada.
Bye.
Jai.